Come on. We will win. Because we will hit all game. We are motivated. We are dedicated. Come on now. Come on now. We will win. Because we are the best on the field. And we hit the field like all day like all night like on the blue light, offense like defense like his squad like house call like and it sound like and it sound like and it sound like. Looks right, throws it too high. Oh, it was called on the back end. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He called it in. ECU the miracle win. In Lubbock tonight.
Goes for the end zone. The ball's in the air. It drops at the goal line. I think he counted for a touchdown. He got it. He got it. He got it. Touchdown, Nick Matthews. The Cougars win it. The Cougars win it. He gets in. He's got room to the right. Tucks. Throws anyway. In the end zone. It is caught. It's caught for a touchdown.
It's a good one. The set down. The kick is up. On the way. It is goal.
He missed the catch. Do you believe this? With 1:11 to go, he missed the
He is up, and the kick is no good. And the Cougars are going to win the football game. Donnell Barnes over on the far side. He's going to keep it himself. Cut back inside. Slams for the touchdown. And the
forever. I'ma do this here forever.
Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I am your host Daniel Short. Today is January 15th, 2016, and boy do we have a bunch of news. College football, the NFL, as we slowly get prepared for our hibernation into the off season. But we're going to enjoy this for right now. We have to. This is all we got. Thankfully, we still have some college football news, including we are going to do our way too early 2016 top 10. That is what we're going to do. Later in the show, we're going to talk about some new coaching jobs around, or filled, I should say, and a few other things in the NFL. I'll obviously preview the NFL playoff games, the divisional playoffs. 3 of these games have already been played this season, and it's going to be interesting with a few injuries knocking some key players out. So we're going to talk about all that here on the show. As always, follow me on Twitter at short_sports 24/7. Become a fan on Facebook, The Short Sports Show. And let us get it on. All links are down in the description below. So first, we'll talk about some college football news, and that is LSU Tigers running backs coach Frank Wilson, widely regarded as one of the nation's top recruiters, will now become the head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners. Now, Wilson has spent the last 6 seasons at LSU, where he coached multiple players who reached the NFL. In last weekend's NFL wildcard playoff games alone, the leading rushers for the Houston Texans, Alfred Blue, the Kansas City Chiefs, Spencer Ware, and the Cincinnati Bengals, Jeremy Hill, were all former Wilson proteges at LSU. Wilson was also the driving force, questionable, behind LSU running back Leonard Fournette, which is a fellow New Orleans native, of course, who was the nation's #1 overall prospect in 2014. Now, I think he just wanted to stay in Louisiana as, of course, the #1 overall player and stay with his homeschooled team. But having Frank Wilson overall to recruit all these other guys is a huge deal. Now, Rivals.com and a few other scouting websites have named Wilson as their recruiter in recent seasons. He had other star-studded classes lined up at LSU before accepting the UTSA job. Now, with 3 weeks left until National Signing Day, ESPN.com rates LSU's 2016 recruiting class as first in team rankings. Now, before arriving at LSU, Wilson had coaching stops at Tennessee in 2009, Southern Miss in 2008, and Ole Miss from 2005 to 2007. So he's been around. And I really like this hire. I truly do. Having the top recruiter, bringing him here into the state of Texas and a UTSA program that is somewhat been on the, it's just started. It literally just started 5 years ago. Back in 2009 was the first year, 2012. I'm blind. When UTSA started 8-4 as their first year, then they went 7-5 in 2013 after joining Conference USA. And after the Roadrunners slipped into a 4-8 and 3-9 seasons back-to-back years, Larry Coker resigned. he was their first head coach. And now Wilson steps in, of course, great recruiter. And I'm excited. I'm not a UTSA fan, but I'm excited to see what UTSA can do and see who they can flip. I don't think you're going to get a lot of players flipping from LSU to UTSA, but it's definitely going to be something special. Now, of course, I don't like to make any situation in sports turn in that has something to do with a little bit of race. You know, I don't try to switch it, but of course, major media tries to switch it. It's just what they want to do. But this is interesting to see that shortly after the NCAA president, Mark Emmert, said that there wasn't enough African Americans getting chances or becoming head coaches, now they have another one with UTSA. Now, we just had Texas State hire Everett Withers. You have Charlie Strong at Texas, and you have, of course, the guy, Kevin Sumlin. I don't know why I always forget his name, at Texas A&M. In just the state of Texas alone, as head coaches now, major programs, major stops. So I guess that's good. Since they're going to point it there, let's just say it's good. I think everybody's given the same chance, but hey, it's all good. Ohio State announces Nike extension for reported $252 million. The Wall Street Journal reported that the deal was worth of over $252 million, which would make it the most valuable deal in college sports on a per annual basis and in total size. This is ridiculous, guys. The Journal reported a breakdown that includes $112 million in products and at least $103 million in cash. That is crazy. Nike signed a 15-year deal with Texas worth $250 million back in November, and an 11-year deal with an option for 4 years or more, and at a price of $169 million with the University of Michigan back in July. Now, Ohio State is signed through 2033. Texas is through 2031, and Michigan through 2027 with an option to be extended through 2031. Huge deals. Hopefully, TCU can hook it up. You know, can we get that cash coming towards us? Because done pretty good for Nike. I think we have. UCLA promoted running backs coach Kennedy Palomalu to offensive coordinator on Wednesday, but the Bruins initially offered the job to no other than Alabama offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin. Now, this was 2 days before the title game, so before anything happened, Kiffin was asked what opportunity it would take for him to leave Alabama. Apparently not UCLA, which I somewhat understand. His job is obviously safe at Alabama with Nick Saban and the offense. And he did a great job. He did a great job this year. It's weird to say that Lane Kiffin did a great job, but he really did with this Alabama team. Now, granted, you had Derrick Henry, a pretty solid offensive line, but he did a lot in developing Jake Coker, because Jake Coker was terrible at the beginning of the year and almost throughout the entire season until the later half of the year, and really turned it around, especially here in the playoffs and into the national championship game. A lot of that has to do with Lane Kiffin, his coaching style, the plays that he called, and just overall development in Jake Coker. Now they're going to have to do the same thing with a brand new quarterback coming in for Alabama. But it makes sense safety-wise, knowing that you have a chance to possibly win a couple more championships, which is just ridiculous. And money-wise, you're going to get paid pretty well at Alabama, especially once you start doing good. Oh, they got you. But at the same time, man, that would have been, at least me, I think, where would you rather live? If you're going to get paid almost the same or if not more at UCLA, would you rather live in Los Angeles or just in California alone, or in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? I'm sorry, I am taking my talents to California very, very quickly. But hey, it's all good. He's got a great spot there, and I don't see him leaving until a big-time head coaching opportunity, which most likely will come calling to Lane Kiffin at some point. And also, I don't know if he wants to play USC multiple times a year. Well, not a year, but multiple times. It just didn't go over so well last time. some great news came for the College Football Playoff Committee, and that was Texas Tech Athletic Director Kirby Hocutt has now been named the second chairman of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, which was announced on Thursday. Hocutt replaces Arkansas Athletic Director Jeff Long, who is still on the committee, but is no longer the chairman after serving that role for the past 2 seasons. That's great. That's great because Jeff Long, just terrible at talking. He did not know how to really grade a team and obviously made a lot of slip-ups just the first year. Now, Condoleezza Rice, which I have no idea why she's even on the committee. She has nothing to do with athletics, but she is. She offered her reasoning on why staying with a 4-team college football playoff is preferable during a Q&A session Thursday at the NCAA annual convention in San Antonio. Had I known that was happening, I might have been able to go. Did not. It just slipped by me. She said, quote, "I like the system where it is. I understand that worthy teams are going to get left out, but scarcity is not a bad thing. It makes it more competitive and I think more interesting," end quote. Well, Condoleezza Rice, how do you feel if you were on that other end? I'm just saying. I'm not being salty, but why she's even on the playoff committee blows my mind. There's other valuable and more just overall better candidates that are out there that could easily take her spot, and along with a few others. It's not just her. There's a lot of other people on the committee that just are questionable on why they are on the committee. It just blows my mind. But hopefully with Kirby Hocutt, he can help the Big 12 out just a little bit, even though they're kind of screwing themselves. We're about to talk about that. And offer some reasoning other than, biased with Jeff Long, which I absolutely hate that guy. Now, the Big 12 thought they had something, and I don't know where exactly they're going, but we might not see the Big 12 much longer if they continue down the road they're going. They now have the ability to have a conference championship game without expanding from the 10 teams that they have, thanks to a vote Wednesday at the NCAA convention again. The vote was by the council was passed 7-2. The Pac-12 didn't vote, but later said it would support the change. Bob Bowsley, who's the commissioner for the Big 12, said the ACC and the AAC voted against the compromise proposal on Wednesday, but an NCAA spokesman said the commissioner misspoke, as the SEC was the conference besides the AAC to vote against the proposal. Now, Bowsley will discuss those plans with Big 12 presidents and athletic directors in the near future, but acknowledged the Big 12 title game could be worth $25 to $30 million in TV rights. Yay, that's great, more money. But man, this conference is about to die. It truly is. If they do not expand to at least 12 teams, I don't care who they are anymore, this conference will not be here in the next 5 years. I guarantee you that. Because what happens, and obviously the first example is, well, okay, let's say we had a Big 12 title game. Now, back in 2014, that would have worked out great. You would have had TCU and Baylor go back at it. And, winner of that most likely gets in over Ohio State. Or maybe, I don't know, something happens. But that game might have helped them. Now, this year, it would have been a complete waste of time, and I don't think they would have made that $25 to $30 million. I don't think it would be anywhere close, because it all came down to the Bedlam rivalry in Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Now, they would have again played each other a following week after they had the blowout game that Oklahoma did. They would still have to play each other and then be called the Big 12 champion. Now, let's say what happens if Oklahoma's 11-1 after winning that game, right? And Oklahoma State gets in there. Now they got to play again. What if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma? Now, we all know Oklahoma State's not making the playoffs, but then that once again knocks out a Big 12 team out of the playoffs. Had Oklahoma State, let's say they beat them again, or they do beat them in the second game. So you're going to play this round-robin schedule where everybody plays everybody, then again play them again in the conference championship game. All it takes is Team A to be a high record and be, most likely into the playoffs, and Team B with whatever record come in there with, maybe let's say they have 3 or more losses. They come in there and they beat that team A. You've just knocked yourself out of the playoffs. This did absolutely nothing. Now, again, that can happen when you have more, expanded teams and whatnot. But at least they wouldn't have already played each other, because then you're going to have the argument, well, if we never had the championship game, we would have been in it and all this other nonsense. It's dumb to have a conference championship game with only 10 members if everybody's going to play each other. Now, if you spread it out to different divisions, North and South, East, West, whatever you want to do, and you spread it out where you only play your division, 5 on each side, and then the winner of that plays, goes on to play each other, then that can somehow work. But this is not going to happen. Now, Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy said last week, quote, "I don't think a championship game is the answer unless we're going to divide up South and North and East and West, whatever we wanted to do. This year we would have played OU again. I don't think that's productive. I don't see what you get out of that," end quote. It's true. It's true. Nothing good would come out of that. Now the Big 12 said that even though this rule was passed, it didn't mean that they won't expand. It didn't mean they were going to have a championship game in 2016. None of this. What it did was it didn't pressure them to immediately expand or find something else to do. But honestly, if they don't expand, this will die. They will die in 5 years max. And then we're going to have super conferences with the Pac-12, the SEC, and the Big Ten. It's just all going to be super teams over there. And that can hurt teams like Kansas, Iowa State, even Texas Tech. And if Baylor starts going back down, then Baylor can get hurt. A lot of crazy things could happen, but I don't know. Big 12, you're screwing yourself here. Just expand. I understand you want more money, but is 2 teams really going to hurt you? I mean, is it really that much more or that much less money? Expand to 2 teams. Whoever you pick, I don't care anymore. I know BYU's always that team that's brought up, but they're having some scheduling problems, so maybe not them. And then you go too far west. Now you got to bring another East team. I did like the thought, though. I saw, obviously, there's all different reports, and we're going to wrap this up quickly. There was different reports of who they believe should be invited and accept the Big 12 invitation to expand, blah, blah, blah. Now, one of them, even though it really doesn't make sense unless the Big 12 expanded to at least 14 to maybe even 16 teams, which would be crazy and it won't happen, but I'm just saying, is UConn. Now, Big 12 is already probably the best basketball conference right now, just with the teams that they are and some of the up-and-coming teams that are getting better with Texas Tech and a few others, West Virginia and whatnot. If they were to add UConn into that conference, imagine the basketball, how great that would be. Football-wise, it's going to be tough for Texas Tech or TCU, any of the Texas schools really, or even if you had BYU, that would definitely have different divisions of East and West. But to even have one of those teams at Iowa State travel all the way to UConn and vice versa, be a little bit too much. But anyways, that's a whole different discussion on all of that stuff. But Big 12 obviously just needs to expand and just wrap this up. Now, with all that, the 2015-16 season of college football is now over. Now it is time for us media people to cause a little bit of, I wouldn't say arguments or debates, but just keep everybody up and moving. Now let us start the 2016 way too early top 10. This is mine. Everybody's going to have their opinion. But here we go. Number 1, starting the 2016 season, is the Clemson Tigers. Now they lose, obviously, big defensive stars in Shaq Lawson, Dodd, Mackenzie Alexander. But when you have Deshaun Watson and Wayne Gallman, including a top recruiting class, Clemson is going to be just fine. They really are. I believe in them. They have a pretty solid schedule for 2016. And even though I know people are going to say, well, Alabama just won and Clemson got out coached, and why aren't they number one? Well, just what Clemson brings to the table for next year, that is basically a guarantee of what they bring. And playing in the ACC is much easier than the SEC. So for all the SEC lovers out there you go. That's why Alabama isn't ranked number one, even though they won the national championship. You want to say your conference is tougher? That is why you are number two. Alabama Crimson Tide, number two. Now, they lose a ton of talent and brains on the defense. Reggie Ragland, obviously defensive coordinator, and Kirby Smart now becoming the Georgia head coach. Derrick Henry is gone, though they have apparently some 6'3", 200-pound running back in the wings, so maybe that's not a big deal. Coker's now gone, which at the beginning of the season, nobody truly cared if he was gone, but now, huge loss. Alabama's going to have to, once again, get a brand new quarterback, whether it's Blake Barnett or some other freshman. Someone needs to step up and become a multiple-year starting quarterback. Now, that wasn't Jay Coker's fault. That was just because of, transfer rules and whatnot. But Alabama number two, it's really like 1A, 1B. It's really what it comes down to. So if people are going to get all upset and butthurt about it, it's really 1A, 1B. That's all it is. And Alabama just happens to be 1B. Number three is going to be the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, this pains me to say because I don't hate Oklahoma. I respect Oklahoma, but I don't like them. And while they lose some talented linebackers and DBs, and of course Sterling Shepard, they will have Baker Mayfield for another year. Their main two running backs in Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon will be back, though having tough games on the road to Houston and Ohio State at home early should really test this team and where they're at. But I really feel like Oklahoma, obviously they can recruit just about anybody, and Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley doing their thing. Oklahoma's going to be just fine. I know they got to plug up some holes in defense with Eric Stryker and all them good players. Oklahoma's going to be fine. They're going to be a top team, and it's really going to be fun when they play Houston and when they play Ohio State. Thankfully for Oklahoma, they have Ohio State at home. Now, number four, and I actually just want to clear something up before we announce the top four. Now, this isn't the top four I believe will be in the playoffs. This is just to start the 2016 season, okay? I don't want people to say, oh, you have the same three teams and Oklahoma got blown out and blah, blah, blah. This is not for the playoffs. This is just to start the 2016 season. Clear that out. Number four is going to be probably one of the most hyped teams, along with Tennessee as being the most hyped team. And that's Michigan. And the reason is, in just 1 year, Jim Harbaugh took a team that had won 5 games. It's the exact same team, a 5-win team, and they won 10 games, including a blowout victory versus Florida in their bowl game. Now, Florida had a pretty solid defense, if we can all recall. Not the greatest offense, but they got blown out 41 to about 7. Now, Jake Rudock, he's going to be gone. But the top tight end in Jake Butt, the number one running back in the country, and Kareem Walker committing to Michigan, and a solid offensive line and defense is going to put Michigan to compete for a spot. Now, they have to go on the road to Iowa, to Ohio State, and Michigan State, which is going to be tough for Michigan. But this team got their first taste under Harbaugh and the Big Ten, and now they're ready with the recruiting class they've got. And understanding the system, the younger guys knowing the system now, getting ready for next year. Remember, again, they were one play away from beating Michigan State. I don't believe they played Iowa this year. If they did, my fault, I forgot. And Ohio State was just angry. Now, this was a rivalry game, supposed to throw everything out the way, and just this game can go either way. But Ohio State was just really, really angry and trying to prove a point. I think much more. They wanted that game much more than Michigan did. But again, it's a huge rivalry, so maybe not. Michigan should be fine. If they find a quarterback, they settle down with them, I think Michigan's going to be a top team. Number 5 is going to be the Stanford Cardinals. And the reason they're number 5 and not higher is because of the loss of Kevin Hogan, which I believe is the winningest quarterback in Cardinals history, over Andrew Luck, believe it or not. And the 2 offensive line leaving, that scares me a little bit. It does. Can they really have someone step in and be as productive like those guys that they're going to have to replace. Now, of course, Christian McCaffrey is going to ball out, and we all know that. But having to replace their leading tackler, 2 starting DBs, is going to be tough for Stanford, especially playing in the Pac-12. With Washington State getting better, a lot of these other teams getting better, USC finding their guy, Stanford plays a pretty tough schedule. So if they can get a quarterback in, of course, this is like the main thing for quarterbacks. It's just we just don't have that many teams with a great or solid quarterback right now. Stanford, if they could get one in and do the thing, then Stanford could go up higher. But that's the only reason. Losing Kevin Hogan, 2 top offensive linemen, how much is that going to affect Christian McCaffrey, if any? That's the reason they're number 5 and not 3 or 4. I understand what they did last season, but I'm just saying. Number 6 is the LSU Tigers. Now, they have 9 returning starters in offense and defense. Les Miles is re-energized after almost getting canned. And with running back Leonard Fournette, the Tigers have a really good chance of beating just about anybody. Now, LSU does lose 2 top tackles in Alexander and Hawkins, but I feel like with Fournette, he can just gash just about anybody with the normal offensive line, just a solid offensive line. Defensively, I feel very confident. They get home games against Ole Miss and Alabama. Huge games. Chad Kelly returning, obviously, for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be very good. Alabama's Alabama. So any little bit of help that LSU can get is huge. And now, obviously, Leonard Fournette, starting the 2016 year, this is his eligibility year that after 2016, he can then enter the NFL draft if he chooses. So he's going to want to have a huge year. Because the first 2 years, that's great. But if he doesn't have that great of a year, and I'm not saying he has to win the Heisman, I'm not saying he has to rush over, the 2,000 yards Derrick Henry did, but he's going to have a huge year and doing everything, blocking, catching out of the backfield, which I know LSU does not really pass the ball that much. And not having a quarterback for LSU is a huge thing as well. They just lost the commitment in Felipe Franks. So whether he ends up recommitting to LSU or not is going to be a question mark, but they really have to get the offense down. Now, Les Miles did say that he was going to change his offense and change the offensive staff. Unless there were some small coaching changes, I haven't really seen anything, a.k.a. firing Cam Cameron. Now, while his rush defense is fine, I believe total offense or pass offense was 111th in the country. That's not going to win games, especially in the SEC. So, with that, they need something. They need something up-tempo, some offense to change it up because LSU will not win the big games against Ole Miss, against Alabama, and a few others if they cannot throw the ball. I mean, it's that simple. Number 7 is probably going to be a question mark for a lot of people, but I feel very confident in them. And that's Notre Dame. And I know, hold on, don't end the video just yet. Don't end the podcast just yet. Now, they have huge losses wherever you look. But they have 2 premier quarterbacks at helm. And they only played 3 true road games the entire year. That's at Texas, which Texas might still suck, so who knows. NC State, they're replacing a whole lot of people, and they lost their offensive coordinator. Well, they fired him, but I thought he was pretty solid. And their defense is garbage. And then USC, which you never know, but that's probably going to be a really solid team. So the Fighting Irish should be just fine schedule-wise. And they have some neutral sites against Army or against Navy and Syracuse. And I know Stanley and Martin are both gone from the offensive line. I know Will Fuller and CJ Prosise are both gone from the skill positions. And I know Joe Schmidt, Jalen Smith, and Keviar Russell are all gone from the defensive side. But with that schedule, and no matter who starts at quarterback with Zaire or the other guy that, of course, I'm going to forget his name, I believe Notre Dame is going to be just fine. Top 10 team? Yes, I think so. They're replacing a lot. Recruiting is going to be a huge deal for them. Brian Kelly staying for them. He's got a plan. And I think it's all going to work out. Malik Zaire, Deshaun Kaiser, that's who I'm going for. There we go. Both of these guys are going to compete and push each other to levels Notre Dame has not seen at quarterback for a very, very long time. And probably even better. These guys both won it. Zaire wants to come back from that injury strong and show that he is the true number one quarterback. And Deshaun Kaiser's trying to show that he still got it and he is the best choice. It's going to be fun offseason for Notre Dame. They're not. Brian Kelly said he's not going to announce the starting quarterback until the first, to that first week of their first game. So it's going to be back and forth over and over again. Hopefully no injuries happen, but I believe Notre Dame should be just fine. Number 8 is the Houston Cougars. I have to. And I know people are saying, well, what about Baylor? They lost their quarterbacks and still had a dynamic offense. And I know. But Houston feel a little bit more stronger with. Now, they lose a lot on defense. But with the best class Houston has ever had in recruiting, and having Todd Herman and Greg Ward Jr. leading that offense, Houston's going to shock a lot of people. And a lot of people have already used the hashtag H-Town Takeover, and I think they bought into it pretty quickly. Now, DeMarcus Ayers is forgoing his senior year. I believe is a mistake. I don't see him getting drafted in the first 3 rounds. But Courtney Lark should be able to have a big role as an incoming freshman. The UH defense will have to replace 3 starters in the secondary and 3 of its top 4 tacklers. It's going to be tough, but defensively, Houston with their coaches and Craig Navier, I believe that's his last name, and Jason Washington defense, they can coach. They can coach. Defense, DBs, they have it. If they can coach multiple NFL draft picks at Texas State University, they can coach Houston guys, especially with the recruits they're getting. They're getting a 5-star defensive tackle going to Houston. And he's legit, too. He's not just because of his ranking. No, he is really good. And they got some other DBs coming in to step in. Houston's going to be fine replacing these guys. It's not going to be easy, of course. And the few weeks are going to give up some big plays like they did this year. But I think they're going to settle down with the coaching. Everybody's obviously bought in. The new guys and the older guys have quickly bought into this program. The Cougars will open up the season against Oklahoma at NRG Stadium in Houston. And then they play AAC road games at Cincinnati, Memphis, and Navy. Now, Cincinnati could be one of the tougher games out of that group. Navy obviously gave Houston a problem in the championship game, not the championship game, but the week before it. Memphis, on the other hand, should be a win for Houston. It's going to be a tough road game, of course, but obviously Lynch is gone. The head coach, Justin Fuente, is gone. A lot of other players are leaving as well. I think Memphis, not saying they're going to suck, but they're going to come back to life. They're going to go back to that average 6-6, 7-5 type team. The only thing that scares me, is, of course, is going to be a tough Oklahoma team. But this is a great chance opening week to exploit them with a top offense in Houston, going against their defense, having to replace some of those players that we talked about earlier. And Cincinnati and Navy, that might be some of the tougher games. Number 9 is the Florida State Seminoles, and this was very tough to put them there and not maybe Ohio State. The reason is that this is the team that lost to Houston in the Peach Bowl, but they should come back pretty strong as, at least on the offensive side, as every starter is returning. Ladies and gentlemen, every starter is returning for Florida State. Only Everett Golston is leaving as a former starter, but he doesn't really count since Sean McGuire took over as QB1. Now, obviously, losing defensive studs like Jalen Ramsey sucked, but the recruiting class from last year and this upcoming class should help fill some of those missing holes. And Florida State should be just fine in this the ACC. Clemson's obviously going to be a tough game. Miami, depending on what Mark Rich can do in his first year, can be tough. Florida State should be fine. Defensively, they use obviously a couple starters, but man, Florida State might be that dark horse team once again. They will be. And drum roll, please. The last team, the top 10, is not Ohio State, not Baylor, not Ole Miss, but TCU. Of course, the TCU Horned Frogs. Now, I'm clearing it out there. People are going to say, oh, that's dumb. That's crazy. Don't talk about losing players to Gary Patterson, as he would just shake his head. Now, TCU, sure, they lose their best, probably arguably their best quarterback in school history in Trevon Boykin. And sure, they lose their best wide receiver TCU's ever had in Josh Doxson. But with Kenny Hill in the waiting and 26 other wide receivers on the team, believe it or not, I'm sure GP can think of many ways to win without those playmakers in Josh Doctson and Trevon Boykin. Now, one of the best recruiting classes for TCU is coming for the 2016 season, and given all the youngsters that had to step in and play for the almost 30 players that were injured this year, TCU has experience and will compete for the Big 12 championship. This was, this past year, the greatest coaching job Gary Patterson has ever put, even if they had lost against Oregon in the bowl game. It just was. To coach with every week a star player getting hurt, week after week, week after week, week after week, and still winning or keeping it close, he's got it. He's got it. And, I'm excited for TCU. I truly am. This is going to be an exciting year. Defensively, again, this isn't a problem now. We've got all those players returning from the guys that had the medical red shirt because of the injuries, and now in playing from last year that weren't really supposed to. We had cornerbacks playing as linebackers. With the real recruiting class coming in, we have about 8 players that already are early enrollees, both freshmen and JUCO players already on campus right now. That's huge. Huge. TCU is going to shock a lot of people. They're going to be rated low to a lot of people because of Boykin being gone and Doctson. Also losing 4 offensive linemen out of 5 really does hurt. But what most people forget is, unless you actually pay attention to TCU, is that TCU already played with without these players. We didn't play with Boykin for 2 games or 2.5 games. We played without Doctson for about the last 3 or 4 games. The offensive linemen, 3 of those players didn't play the last 3 or 4 games. TCU's played with a lot of the players that are now going to be gone. And that was one statement Gary Patterson emphasized early when Boykin went down, when Doctson went down, and a lot of other players that were seniors saying, hey, you got to get ready because a lot of these guys aren't going to be here, or a lot, of course, the seniors aren't going to be here next year. So you're going to have to win without them anyways. Might as well, since they've got injured, which sucks, get ready for it now. And they did. They win. So TCU is going to shoot up there. Now, of course, as a TCU fan, people are going to say I'm biased, but I give respect to Baylor. If I was going to continue, I just wanted to make this quick with the top 10. 11 would have been Baylor. 12 would have been Ole Miss. 13 would have been Ohio State. For all those people, before you get all crazy. Again, these are just my way too early top 10. Obviously, there's difference out there. You can check them out. And, of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear who's your top 10. Why are they your top 10? Not just saying, oh, well, they won a national championship. They got to be there. Why? Let me know why. But that is my top 10 for the way, way, way too early 2016 season. Got to start something because it's just going to be a long hibernation. All right, let's move on to the NFL as coaching changes and relocation changes have happened very quickly this week. Now, the Seattle Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch sent ESPN's Kenny Mayne a 2-word text saying, quote, "I'm ready." Meaning that Lynch, who was a full participant at practice on Wednesday and Thursday, is ready to go against the Carolina Panthers this week. He also participated in full last week in practice, but informed the team on Friday that he just didn't feel good enough to participate in the wild card game against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Lynch hasn't played since November 15th and underwent abdominal surgery on November 25th and has been rehabbing in San Francisco, but rejoined the team last week. So he's ready to go against Carolina, and they really do need him against a healthy and terrifying Carolina Panthers team. The San Francisco 49ers, of course, hired Chip Kelly to be their coach 11 days after firing Jim Tomsula following a 5-11 one-and-done season. Now, Kelly, who was fired in his third year coaching with the Philadelphia Eagles, will now receive a 4-year, $24 million deal with the 49ers, a league source said. Now, Philadelphia does owe Kelly about $13 million over the next 2 years, but that total will be offset by the deal Kelly signed with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Kelly may also offer opportunities for Colin Kaepernick, quarterback for the 49ers. Now, a lot of people said, all right, this guy is done. He's gone. And it's just a matter of time because they still owe him $11.9 million for 2016. That becomes fully guaranteed for injury come April 1st. So many believe that the team will try to trade him, release him, do something to get him off the team. Now, Kaepernick is recovering from 3 surgeries, a left shoulder, a right thumb, and a left knee, and who was thought to be done might fit the set for Chip Kelly's offense, depending on what he does. Now, obviously, you've got to be accurate, something Kaepernick really hasn't been in his career. And you got to make quick reads, which Kaepernick does, but again, not always the most accurate. So I hope Kaepernick can stay with San Francisco, but I truly believe the safest pick for the 49ers was Mike Shanahan. Based on his track record and less questions on him than on Chip Kelly. But I don't know. I hope it all works out I truly hope that Kelly, it all works out for him in San Francisco. I hope he starts winning with San Francisco. You know, I hope they do great. I truly do. Because I like Chip Kelly. I kind of like the 49ers. I like Colin Kaepernick. But I think the safest pick was to have Mike Shanahan take over that team. Just everything he's done. And I think he's ready to get back into coaching. Now that's not going to happen. Not looking too good. As for Chip's former team, the Eagles are expected to hire Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Doug Peterson as their head coach. Now, the reason it's not fully official is because no move can be made until the end of the season for the Chiefs, whether that ends this Saturday or that ends in February. They cannot make it official. The Eagles have also hired Ken Faloje? I don't know. According to reports in El Paso, Texas, he is expected to be the defensive assistant. Now, Ken had been set to become the defensive coordinator at UTEP before now accepting this job. Now, the relationship between Ken and Peterson goes back to 1998 when Peterson was the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers and Ken was a defensive assistant coach for the Packers as well. So, solid move for the Eagles. I think it's solid, but I kind of question now. I know the Chiefs' offense is starting to pick up the past, now I guess, 10, 11 weeks. But, man, last year was not good at all for the Chiefs offensively. And is it enough points to put on the board with this Eagles team now? Is he going to be able to inherit that and really take it? The Chiefs improved this year very well. And I know they lost Jamal Charles, but honestly, they don't even need them. Spencer Ware and West, everybody's picked up the pace and really done a great job. Former Minnesota Vikings owner Red McCombs said in an interview that San Antonio is ready for the Oakland Raiders if they decide to move to the city, and that he is even willing to invest if the team needed. Now, McCombs is an 88-year-old billionaire and is said on the radio with ESPN San Antonio on Wednesday that he talked to Raiders owner Mark Davis on Tuesday after the team withdrew its application to relocate to Los Angeles. According to Bleacher Report, Davis owns land in the San Antonio area where he could build a stadium. McCombs said San Antonio has several locations that would work out to build a stadium, that he has 12 corporate sponsors lined up with, quote, serious commitments. Now, he has to convince that Davis moving to the team to Texas is the right move for the franchise. The Raiders would need league approval to move to San Antonio, but McCombs said he doesn't believe it would be withheld because of the team's troubles securing a new stadium in Oakland. Well, he also didn't think about the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans possibly saying absolutely not, because it would take a huge chunk of sponsorships and money and fans all the way from the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. Believe it or not, I know people are going to say, well, it's the Cowboys and America's team. There's no way it would take a lot of money out of the Cowboys if the Raiders were to go to San Antonio. Now, in 2014, Davis traveled to San Antonio and to meet with area leaders and scout the area, but nothing was truly official then. It was just nothing but, rumors. Now there's a shot. So it becomes pretty crazy to think that we might be seeing the San Antonio Raiders here pretty soon. Now, the question is, they did say he owns land in the San Antonio area. There's two different reports. One report from major media says it's in the San Antonio area. There are a few reports saying that it isn't actually in San Antonio, because there's a difference. San Antonio area can go from anywhere in Cibolo, Schertz, San Marcos, believe it or not. And there's reports that maybe the Raiders are looking at, because they're trying to get the most money and the most interest in finding a team, of course, that is between Austin and San Antonio. That way they can generate more money. And the major city between that happens to be where the show is being recorded right now and where I am from, San Marcos. Now, I'm not buying into it, but there could be a shot that the Raiders move to San Marcos. The only reason I don't believe that happens is because, yes, they want to get the Austin market, which, of course, is the 11th biggest city in the United States, and the San Antonio market, the 7th biggest city in the United States, and put them together, basically. San Marcos is about 30 minutes from Austin, maybe a little bit more with traffic, and about 45 minutes from San Antonio. San Marcos is home to two prime outlet malls that generate about 14 million visitors per year, which is crazy. I didn't even know it was that high. I knew it was one of the biggest spots, but I didn't know it was that high. I mean, when you're from a small, what used to be a small town, and you see big numbers like that, you're like, really? So it could be interesting to see how this all works out for the Raiders, and if they come to San Marcos or they go to San Antonio. I think they end up going to San Antonio because, I mean, if you go to San Marcos, you're then having to rely on people from San Antonio driving all the way to San Marcos, back and forth, and same for Austin. Why not just put it in San Antonio, the bigger area? There's area for land that could put a stadium in there. Because obviously the Alamo Dome only holds about 65 to 67, 68,000 people. That's not going to be enough for the Raiders. They're going to need 80+ thousand stadium. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of work to be done. But it is pretty cool to think that San Marcos is being brought up there. But I wouldn't be surprised right after I leave San Marcos, the Raiders come to San Marcos. That just sucks. But I don't know if I'd stay. San Marcos, no. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have officially hired their offensive coordinator, Dirk Koetter, as their new head coach. The team said the news conference will take place today, Friday, at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Now, he has been the offensive coordinator since 2007, but it'll be his first head coaching job in the league. He was the head coach at Boise State from 98 to 2000 and at Arizona State from 2001 to 2006 before moving on to the NFL. Now, he joined Tampa Bay staff in 2015 and helped guide Jameis Winston to one of the best seasons by a rookie quarterback in NFL history. Winston completed 58.3% of his passes for 4,042 yards, and 22 touchdowns, becoming just the third rookie quarterback to surpass 4,000 yards. The others were Cam Newton and Andrew Luck. Now, the Buccaneers offense ranked 5th in rushing thanks to Doug Martin's 1,400 yards rushing, which was 2nd in the league. They're also 17th in passing and 5th overall after being 30th in the league in 2014. Now, he had success as an offense coordinator with quarterbacks before. He was offensive coordinator with Jacksonville and with Atlanta, spending 2010 from 2012 in Atlanta, helping quarterback Matt Ryan post top three passing yardage totals in Falcons history those 3 years, and then spending 5 years with Jacksonville from 2007 to 2011, helping then quarterback David Garrard, one of my favorite quarterbacks, by the way, to one of the best seasons in team history. Garrard threw 18 touchdown passes to only 3 interceptions in 2007. Excuse me, I'm getting so confused with numbers here. And he threw what was then a franchise record 23 touchdown passes back in 2008. Wrapping it up here, the Detroit Lions are staying with Jim Caldwell as their head coach, the team announced on Friday. After spending a significant amount of time together, it is clear that this is what, I didn't put the quote, my fault. This is what new general manager Bob Quinn said Friday. After spending a significant amount of time together, it is clear that our football philosophies are very similar. Consequently, I am convinced he is the right man to lead our football team moving forward, end quote. Now, Caldwell was hired by the Lions back in 2014 in January and immediately turned around a struggling franchise, going 11-5 in his first season. Then things quickly fell apart after being the last winless team in the NFL this season, starting 1-7. Jim Caldwell, I'm not sold. But hey, give him one more year. Let him see if he could change things around, fix that defense, and get some offensive points. But now they really got to focus on Calvin Johnson and seeing what he wants if he's wanting to stay. Because that is huge if he doesn't. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown has been ruled out for Sunday's AFC Divisional Round playoff game against the Denver Broncos after suffering a concussion in last week's win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, it was by that hit by Vontae Burfict. Now, a lot of people said he was faking it, trying to draw more penalties and whatnot, but obviously he was not faking it, because if he was, they would make sure he wouldn't be out for a major game, because we don't even know if Ben Roethlisberger is going to play. This is a huge game for the Steelers, but now they're going to be out with Antonio Brown and possibly Ben Roethlisberger. So with that, we go to our playoff picture and the AFC divisional matchups. We're going to go ahead and talk about these games. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Denver Broncos. Now, the last meeting was this year, and Pittsburgh won at 34-27, a crazy game that was. It was a fun game watching it. But it's definitely going to be different this time. I'm going with the Denver Broncos to win this game just because of all the injuries. Brown is now out, as we all know. And overall, they struggled with Cincinnati. That Cincinnati obviously should have won this game. Ben Roethlisberger, he's probably going to start, but man, I don't know how far and how much he can really throw that ball, which against Denver's defense, not going to be too good. Going with Denver to win this game. Then the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots go at it. And while I want the Kansas City Chiefs to win so very badly, I never thought I'd root for the Chiefs more than I am this week. It's just the Patriots, man. It's the freaking Patriots. And it looks like the Patriots are going to go back to the Super Bowl, because I think the Patriots probably beat Denver as well. I'm going with the New England Patriots, but man, I'm hoping the Chiefs win it so bad. I truly am. On the NFC side, we have number 6 Seattle Seahawks taking on the Carolina Panthers. Now, this team, they played back early in the season, and it was a 27-17 victory for the Carolina Panthers. Things have changed since then for both teams. Seahawks were fairly healthy that year, that part of the year, but also they're a second-half team, and they struggled early in the year. Carolina, been dominant throughout the entire year, really should be undefeated if not for that terrible loss in Atlanta. So with that being said, this is obviously the toughest game out there. It's going to be the most hard-fought game we're going to see. And I want the Seahawks to win, but I think Carolina is just rested. They're ready, and I think Carolina gets a victory as the Panthers move on. And we might actually see a Panthers-Patriots game again. Then we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Arizona won this just a few weeks back, 38-8 in Arizona. That was the last meeting. And every time Green Bay goes to Arizona, Green Bay sucks. I mean, it's just been bad, and I don't see it getting much better. I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals to win this game. Let's say like 34-21 or something like that. And that will wrap it up for today's show. I hope everybody enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button if you're brand new to the channel. Subscribe, share it on YouTube and iTunes, Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, wherever we're at. Thank you so much for listening. As always, God first, God bless. I will be back Monday with some big news. Be ready for it. And thank you, everyone. I'm out. Peace.
Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever.
I done came way too far for me to stop it now. I done worked way too hard just to drop it now. We came